Merhaba, ben Deniz Genç. Welcome to my podcast, The American Dream. In 30-minute episodes, we will hear from successful Turkish professionals about their journey from Turkey to the US. My objective is to inspire young people in Turkey who consider a similar path. My guest today is Gulen Cevik. How are you? Hello.
Hello, Deniz. I'm good. How are you?
A professor of architecture and interior design, she is also the coordinator and of the interior design program of Miami University in Ohio. We'll delve into her experiences, challenges, and valuable advice for young Turkish individuals who consider a similar path. Now, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, now, before we dive in, let's have some fun and get to know you better. Now, we all have a story to tell. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I hate public speaking, 10 being I love public speaking, where would you rate yourself and why?
I guess it depends on what type of public speaking. I love public speaking if I'm doing it in a physical space with physical people. I'm not a huge fan when I'm doing it online, and it also brings back, bad memories about the pandemic and trying to teach online classes. So I would say probably a 10 if I'm in person somewhere speaking in public, and then maybe I don't know, maybe a 3 if I'm doing it online.
Okay. And what is one Turkish food you miss the most?
Mm, um, the most. That's a difficult question. Difficult to pick. I guess it would have to be the fruits and vegetables because that's one thing that you cannot replicate. The other stuff that you can cook, bake, you can somewhat get close to the taste, but the fresh fruits and vegetables, that's a tough one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what is one thing that surprised you the most about American work culture? The good, the bad, could be anything.
Um, when the first time I came here as a master's student, um, I was very surprised how down to earth my professors were, and some of them were very important people in their field, worldly known scholars, but they were very down to earth and they were ready to answer questions, help us out. So, uh, that was very different than what I'm used to. I don't mean to say something negative about my professors in Turkey. I had great professors in Turkey as well, some, but many of them were not necessarily as approachable.
For packing for a new life in the US, what is one item that you brought that was a lifesaver?
I actually was very funny coming here because I had all kinds of interesting items in my luggage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a carpet, I had a teapot. Yeah, I had, glasses for tea, and I actually still use them even today.
And what is a funny language barrier moment you have encountered over your years?
I mean, I'm still not great at pronouncing W's. I would say I'm also not great at pronouncing TA. The fact that my daughter was born at the end of June 30, something I cannot pronounce all that well, causes me a little bit of trouble when I'm trying to get doctor's appointments for her.
Mm-hmm.
I wish she was born on July 1st.
So, if those icebreaker questions done, are you ready to move on to the podcast questions?
Of course.
Yeah, nice. And now, when did the idea of moving to the US first take root? Was it a gradual or sudden decision? And what factors ultimately led to you taking the leap?
It wasn't necessarily there wasn't necessarily a moment in which I said I'm moving to the United States. Um, our intention, me and my husband, our intention was to do our masters and then come back to Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what happened was, as I was a student, a master's student, I guess I did a good job, and my professors, they encouraged me to teach some of the classes in the summertime, and I did, and I realized that I really enjoy it. And conditions in Turkey were not going all that wonderful. So, I would say it was a gradual decision, if that was a decision, really. And, after teaching adjuncts for a while, I was able to secure a, full-time teaching job. And after that, I guess the decision was made.
Yeah, and for the teaching job, did you take a minor or major in Turkey for the teaching, or was it a thing that happened here?
I did not necessarily take any specific education for teaching. I did my undergrad in interior architecture in Turkey, and I came here and I did my Master of Science in Architecture at the University of Cincinnati. And then I actually applied for PhDs in art history. At the same time, I applied for this job that I actually still continue to do. And I was offered, I was accepted in two different PhD programs, one in Ohio State and one in University of Louisville. And then I was offered this job, and it wasn't a very tough decision, being a PhD student versus becoming a tenure track faculty member.
And do you still recommend the pathway you took, or I mean, would you have changed something? Like not done the PhD? I mean, if it was in 2024?
Um, I think this was also a kind of a strategic move in the sense that the job was a great opportunity that I didn't want to miss out. And I knew that I loved teaching. The reason that I wanted to do my PhD was so that it would allow me to be a better teacher, a teacher that's more knowledgeable about their own, topic. And actually later on, after having my second child, actually when she was 55 days older, I started working on my PhD, and I graduated. So I now have the PhD, but it definitely made me wonder before embarking on it. Should I have done my PhD? Now that I have done it, I'm happy. I feel fulfilled that I have my teaching job, but I also was able to complete my education.
And how did your Turkish identity influence your career path in the US? Did you face any challenges relating to your cultural background and ethnicity? And how did you leverage your heritage to your advantage?
There were definitely moments in which, surprisingly, um, people said things to me that were, I guess, not very kind. But this wasn't necessarily even about my job. Even when I was a master's student, I was a graduate assistant for the head of the department, actually. And he gave me a job related to taking pictures of architectural, buildings all over campus, and then creating a slideshow in PowerPoint, which I did. And then he made a remark such as, "Oh, I didn't know people from Turkey could use PowerPoint." So, there are always people who don't know much about the world, or, more about, Turkey. And they do make assumptions. I've been asked, "Oh, do you ride camels?" So, these things happen. I try to take it kind of lighthearted, and then just, move on. I do feel as though, me being from Turkey, and Turkey is a very interesting country because of its location. It's not East, it's not West, it's not Europe, it's not Asia, it's not Middle East. Gives me a specific, perspective, especially when it comes to design and architecture. I feel as though that gives me some additional, power of being able to look at something and understand it in a different way. When I'm teaching, I actually try to give my students a different perspective. For example, right now I'm teaching a sophomore interior design studio this semester, and I'm asking students to design a tea shop. So I assigned a specific country to each student, and the countries are the countries in which tea consumption is high. Places like China, Turkey, India, UK, Japan, and these places also have specific ways that they consume the tea. So when I'm talking about other cultures, I feel as though being kind of an outsider gives me a wider perspective that I'm able to use in my teaching.
I see. And Mimar Sinan being Turkish and all, right? Mimar Sinan. Any inspiration from there? I'm just kind of curious.
Obviously, my university, the university I graduated from, named after him. He's a very important figure in Turkish architecture. I mean, even today, his buildings are still amazing. When somebody experiences them in person, there's no way you would not be moved. However, I also remind my students that architecture does not exist in a silo, and we always learn from the people before us. And Mimar Sinan was also very smart to look at all the architectural wonders that were accessible to him. More specifically, East Roman architecture, and he took great lessons from that. And he was definitely a genius in terms of how he thought about architecture and the kinds of things that he was able to accomplish.
And did your Turkish education in the Mimar Sinan University prepare you adequately for the American workforce and like the way you teach in Ohio, Miami?
I would say for sure, especially I would say from the standpoint of design, definitely. And I would say the master's and also the PhD I received from the University of Cincinnati enabled me to be stronger in terms of theory of architecture and design, because that was not necessarily a strong suit in Mimar Sinan University. We were more interested in the design aspect as opposed to the theory aspect. So I feel as though with my education from Turkey and here, I feel more complete.
I see. So both sides are the same, and it makes you complete. I see. And networking, as you know, is a crucial, point in American workforce. How would you say you have networked, and how would you recommend networking? What was your strategies? What were your?
My major strategy, if this is a strategy, was to take every task, every duty, every homework very seriously, and try to do the very best that I can. Because if I didn't do that, I may not have been, a great student when I was a master's student. And perhaps, I wasn't going to attract my professor's attention. And then maybe they were not going to ask me to teach as an adjunct. And maybe if I didn't have that adjunct teaching experience, perhaps I wasn't going to get the full-time job that I have today. So I never took any task or, work lightly. I always took it very seriously, and I tried to do the very best that I can. I valued all the relationships, I was able to establish. And I kept, in connection with the people that I met over the years.
And just out of curiosity as well, did your networking from Turkey help you at all, or was it all networking in America?
I would say it's probably more in America, in the United States. I mean, because I left Turkey at a very young age. I was 23 when I came to the United States. I didn't have much time to do much of any networking in Turkey.
I see.
I would say most of my networking happened in the United States.
And what were the biggest challenges you have faced in your career journey here in the US, both professional and personal, and how did you overcome them? And how would you give advice to overcoming challenges like yours?
I think the United States presents unique challenges, especially to women who may happen to have kids, especially young children. This is not necessarily a country that is very, I guess, family friendly in some ways compared to Europe, compared to Turkey. And the fact that you're away from your family, you're away from the support of your family, also, makes things more difficult. And it was definitely a challenge when my children were babies, when they were younger. I felt a lot of guilt, leaving them at the daycare and going to my job, and trying to find a balance between being a mother, doing my job to my best abilities at the same time.
I see. And what have you learned from these challenges in moving to the US? Is there any advice you could give?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it's really, these types of things, for example, the ability for the family member or members to support you, to help you, such as maybe your mom or your mother-in-law. It really depends on specific situations in every family. But I guess, I don't know if this is an advice, but I would say, difficult days pass and you just have to hang in there. It gets easier, not more difficult. So you just have to continue doing what you do, and then it's going to be okay in the end.
I see. And did you have a guiding hand during your US career journey, or have to pave the way yourself?
I would definitely say there were several people who helped me along the way. I mean, definitely my professors when I was a master's teacher or master's student. They were very encouraging. Honestly, the first time they asked me, "Hey, would you teach this class?" I just said to myself, "What do I know about teaching? How can I teach? I never did it." But they were very encouraging. They told me, "We think you would be a great teacher. You should try this." And if it wasn't for their encouragement, I may not have found the courage to do it in the first place. And so I'm very thankful to them, to see something in me, and also to encourage me to do this. And even after I took the job, more senior faculty members helped me out in terms of guiding me, helping me with my scholarship. For example, I wrote this article and I was having difficulty finding a place to publish it. And I met this very generous woman in my university, professor, and she helped me basically cut the article in 3 pieces and publish 3 different articles. And she made recommendations for specific journals. And so that type of work and guidance helped me a lot. And whenever I have the opportunity to lend a hand to younger faculty members, I try to do it because I know the value of this type of help.
And when, having being helped, did you have to overall have to see your way to help and ask and find a helper, or did it usually come to you? How did it work, you think, in your experience?
I think you need to be more active. I had to be more active. But whenever I reached out to people to ask for their help, for their advice, I was never denied that. And I think that's also something perhaps unique in American culture, at least in academia. That's what I have, experienced. And even people whom I never met face to face, I would email them, I would ask them question about a conference, a journal. They always reached out to me and they tried to help me, inform me about what my question was.
Before we end, is there anything you would like to add that I've maybe missed or you would like to share out to the world?
I guess I would say being, an immigrant in the United States, especially in a place that is not a big city, I don't know if I could have done it without the help and support of my family and my friends. Because, this place can get kind of lonely without
Mhm.
family and friends. Um, it has to do with, I'm talking about, common town USA, suburbia,
Mhm.
rather than, an urban area. In urban areas, it may be a little bit different. So, it has to do with how architecture is in the United States. These single family homes kind of apart from each other. In Istanbul, as most people live in apartments. I'm hearing that the neighbor relationships, it's not the same as how it was when we were growing up. But still, you see people, you can talk to them. Um, it's very important to have a network of friends, and not just random friends, but friends that share something with you, either interests or maybe they speak the same language. So when you want to talk to them, you actually can speak in your own language. It's very important, and I think that may be the key for somebody to be happy as an immigrant in the United States.
Mhm. I see. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and helping me out with my podcast as well. I really appreciate everything you've said and done. And thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.